When John turned 53, he thought his best days were behind him. He wasn't sick, he wasn't in pain, but something felt off. His energy had dipped. His mornings were sluggish. His confidence in the bedroom quietly faded, like a song that used to play loud and proud, now barely a whisper. At first he blamed stress, then work, then age. But deep down he wondered, is this just part of being a man after 50, or am I missing something I should have known years ago? That question, what should every man know but no one ever told us, is why we're here today. Hi, I'm glad you're here. Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or well into your 60s, this conversation isn't just important, it's overdue. In this video, we're going to explore 7 powerful yet often overlooked habits that every man should follow to protect one of the most important and misunderstood parts of his body, his penis. Not just for the sake of performance, but for health, for confidence, for longevity, for the man you still are and the one you're becoming. Some of these tips might surprise you. Some might even challenge what you thought you knew. And one of them, the one we'll talk about near the end, has helped thousands of men regain what they thought was lost forever, without a single pill. So get comfortable, take a deep breath, and stay with me. This isn't just about sexual health. This is about reclaiming ownership of your body and your future. Let's begin. 1. Keep it active. Why disuse is a silent threat to your manhood. Let me tell you something most men never hear from their doctor but should. Your penis is like a muscle, and just like your legs, your heart, even your brain, if you don't use it, you slowly start to lose it. That's not an old saying. It's biology. Every day, healthy blood flow helps nourish and oxygenate the tissue in your penis. It keeps the vessels flexible, the nerves sharp, the tissue elastic. It keeps things ready, not just for intimacy, but for life. But when there's no sexual activity for weeks, even months, that flow slows down. And little by little, those tissues begin to stiffen. The elasticity fades. Sensitivity weakens. Erections become harder to achieve and harder to keep. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. Quietly, gradually. Like rust on a tool you left in the garage. John, the man I mentioned earlier, hadn't had sex in over 18 months. Not by choice. After his divorce, he said he just wasn't in the mood anymore. What he didn't realize was that the lack of activity was fueling the problem. By the time he did feel ready again, his body didn't respond the way he remembered. He felt confused, even ashamed. But the truth is, it wasn't about desire. It was about disuse. Now here's the hopeful part. You don't need to be in a relationship to stay sexually healthy. You don't even need frequent sex. But regular stimulation through self-pleasure or non-invasive therapies like a vacuum pump or pelvic floor exercises can help keep things functioning. It's about movement, circulation, oxygen, maintenance. Think of it this way. You don't wait until your car breaks down to change the oil. You take care of it to keep it running. Your body, your masculinity deserves the same. This isn't just about sex. It's about dignity, confidence, quality of life. So ask yourself, when was the last time you checked in on this part of your health? Not with shame, but with care. Because doing nothing is doing something. And the cost of ignoring it can be higher than most men realize until it's too late. But now you know, and that means you can do better. Coming up next, we're going to talk about something that seems so obvious but is often overlooked by even the most health-conscious men. How proper hygiene. Yes, basic hygiene might be the one habit that could literally save your life. You'll want to hear why. Let's move on. 2. Clean it right. How basic hygiene can literally save your life. Most men think they've got hygiene all figured out. A quick rinse in the shower, a little soap, maybe a towel. Done. But here's the truth. Most guys never hear. Poor hygiene isn't just uncomfortable. It can be deadly. You see, in countries like the US, we don't talk enough about penile cancer, maybe because it's rare. But when it does happen, it's often tied to one factor: chronic poor hygiene. Let me tell you about Ray. Ray was 62, retired, took care of his yard like it was his pride and joy, ate well, walked every morning. But when he visited his doctor for some irritation and a strange smell, he was shocked to hear 3 words: possible penile cancer. The cause: years of improper cleaning, a lifetime of not pulling the foreskin back to rinse, of thinking a little soap down there is enough, of never being taught how to actually clean that part of his body. And, sadly, Ray's story isn't as rare as we'd like to think. Here's what every man should know, and what many were never taught. If you're uncircumcised, it's critical to gently pull the foreskin back during every wash. Rinse thoroughly with warm water, not harsh soap that can irritate. Then dry completely. Moisture trapped under the foreskin is the perfect breeding ground for bacteria and fungi. Even if you are circumcised, don't let your guard down. Sweat, dead skin cells, and even urine residue can build up around the base, especially if you're active overweight or live in a humid climate. And after sex, that's another step most guys forget. The pH of the vagina is different from the penis, and if you don't wash up after intercourse even with protection, you're leaving behind a chemical imbalance that can lead to irritation or infections. Here's the simple truth: your genitals need care, not shame. They're part of you. They deserve attention and respect. So, what's the takeaway? Clean gently, daily, thoroughly, dry completely, and if something smells off, it probably is. Don't ignore it. Your future self will thank you, because while this step might seem small, it might be the one thing that saves you from a hospital bed or worse. Now, if hygiene seems obvious, this next habit might shock you. It's something men do all the time without realizing the damage it could be doing. Coming up: why having sex before you're fully erect could be putting your manhood at serious risk, and what most men wish they knew before it happened. Don't skip this one. It's more common than you think. Let's keep going. 3. Don't bend it. The real risks of sex with partial erections. Let's talk about something most men don't even realize they're doing wrong until it's too late. You know those moments when things are almost ready but not quite? But you go ahead anyway thinking, it'll get there once we start. That right there is the danger zone. Because when you attempt penetration before you're fully erect, you're not just taking a shortcut, you're risking a condition that can change everything: Peyronie's disease. Peyronie's is more than just a funny-sounding name. It's when scar tissue called plaque builds up inside the shaft of the penis. That tissue causes painful curves, sometimes so severe that sex becomes impossible. And how does it start? Micro-traumas. Tiny injuries inside the penis, often from bending pressure or friction when the tissue isn't fully firm and stable. Let me introduce you to Rick. Rick was 47, fit, active, happily married, but over time he noticed a bend forming in his erection. At first he brushed it off until the bend turned into pain, and the pain turned into fear. When he finally saw a urologist, the doctor asked just one question: "Have you ever had sex while only partially erect?" Rick paused, and then remembered. Those rushed mornings, the late nights after a few drinks, moments where the pressure to perform overpowered the patience to wait. It wasn't one big accident. It was dozens of small ones built up over time. Here's what men need to know. You wouldn't jump into a sprint with a half-warmed-up muscle, right? So why take that risk with one of the most sensitive, delicate organs in your body? Full erections mean full blood flow. Full blood flow means protection, firmness, structure, resilience. But semi-erect, that's when the tissues are vulnerable, flexible, and once scar tissue forms, it doesn't go away on its own. In many cases, it gets worse. The lesson here: Patience is power. Take your time. Let your body catch up. If things take longer than they used to, that's okay. Talk to your partner. Slow down. Enjoy the journey. Because one rushed decision can lead to years of consequences. And if you already notice curvature discomfort or loss of function, don't wait. The earlier you address it, the more you can preserve what matters most. Now, speaking of preservation, there's another modern habit that's quietly eroding men's sexual health, one that millions have become addicted to without even realizing the damage it's doing. You've probably guessed it, porn. And what we're going to uncover next might just change the way you view it for good. Let's talk about the hidden cost of screen-based arousal and how it could be rewiring your brain more than you think. Stay with me. This one's important for porn isn't harmless. How overuse wrecks real intimacy. Let's take a quiet moment here. This part isn't about judgment. It's about honesty, the kind that most men are afraid to have, even with themselves. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself feeling more awake in front of a screen than with a real partner? If so, you're not alone. And it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because porn, especially the kind that's everywhere online today, is engineered to hijack your brain's reward system. Let me explain it simply. Every time you watch porn, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. It lights up your brain like fireworks. But here's the twist: your brain adapts quickly. So the next time it needs more intense, more graphic, more novel, and over time, what used to arouse you just doesn't work anymore. Now, let me tell you about Evan. Evan was 35, young, healthy, engaged to a woman he loved deeply, but for over a year he couldn't stay hard during real intimacy. He felt broken, ashamed, angry with himself. He saw doctors, got blood tests, tried supplements. Nothing worked until one therapist asked, "How often are you watching porn?" Evan admitted 2 to 3 times a day, every day, since he was 18. He didn't even think it was a problem. But it had rewired his arousal not to touch, not to connection, but to pixels. Here's the truth. Your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's digital. It just responds to what it sees most often. And if that's porn, real-life intimacy can start to feel flat, less exciting, less stimulating. This isn't just about erection issues. It's about intimacy, connection, presence. So, what's the way out? It starts with awareness, like what you're doing right now. Some men choose to take a 30-day dopamine reset. No porn, no stimulation, just letting the brain recalibrate. Others cut back slowly. They build new habits, healthier routines, deeper emotional connections. It's not about quitting forever. It's about asking yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? The lesson here: pleasure is good, but control is better. And real intimacy, eye contact, skin breath, laughter is something a screen will never replicate. And here's the good news. Once the fog lifts, many men find that their sensitivity returns, their drive reignites, and best of all, their confidence comes back. Now, speaking of confidence, it's not just mental habits like porn that shape our sexual health. It's the way we live every day, what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we handle stress. In the next section, we'll look at how your daily lifestyle choices may be silently affecting your performance and what small changes can spark big results. This next part might just be the turning point. Let's keep going. 5. Your lifestyle is your performance. How daily habits shape your sexual health. You can't outsmart biology, and no amount of pills, potions, or promises can undo what your lifestyle does every single day. See, most men think sexual health is all about what happens in the bedroom, but in reality, it starts way before that. It starts in the kitchen, on the couch, at the bar, and sometimes in the quiet of your mind. Let me introduce you to Marvin. Marvin was 59, worked hard his whole life, had a big personality, loved ribs, beer, late-night TV, but somewhere along the way, the fire faded. His erections weren't as strong. His drive slowed down. His confidence dipped. He thought it was just age. But what no one had told him was that the foods he loved, the stress he carried, and the sleep he skipped were slowly closing the valve on his vitality. Because here's the science: erections require blood flow, and blood flow depends on healthy blood vessels. Clog those vessels with sugar-processed fats, alcohol, and nicotine, and things stop working the way they used to. Add in chronic stress, which floods the body with cortisol, and testosterone begins to drop. Throw in poor sleep and sedentary living, and you've got the perfect storm. But here's the truth that changed Marvin's life. Your penis is a mirror of your overall health. If it's not performing well, something deeper might be off. So Marvin made changes. Not overnight, but slowly. He started walking every morning. Nothing crazy, just a few laps around the block. He swapped soda for water, grilled chicken instead of fried, added spinach, cut back on beer, and most importantly, he made sleep non-negotiable. 3 months later, he wasn't just feeling better in bed, he was waking up happy, more energy, sharper mind, better mood, more desire. The point isn't perfection, it's progress. Tiny habits become massive results when done consistently. Your body, including your manhood, notices everything: every cigarette, every skipped meal, every missed hour of sleep. But the beauty is, it also notices every small win, every healthy meal, every deep breath, every good night's rest. So, what's the lesson? Sexual health isn't a mystery. It's the echo of how you live. And when you take care of your body, it gives back in more ways than you might expect. Now, we've talked about the body, but what about the chemistry inside it? In our next segment, we'll look at one of the most powerful and most overlooked drivers of a man's sexual health, testosterone. What it does, how it drops silently, and how to know if it's affecting you more than you realize. Trust me, this is one part most men never think about, until it's too late. Let's dive in. 6. Hormones matter. Why you shouldn't ignore testosterone levels. There's a word most men avoid. They joke about it, dismiss it, pretend it only matters in magazines. That word is testosterone. But here's the truth. Testosterone isn't just about muscles or sex drive. It's about who you feel like you are. Energy, mood, motivation, sleep, focus, confidence. When testosterone starts to dip, and it will with age, everything shifts. But it doesn't always look like what you'd expect. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel was 56. He didn't have erection issues, not at first. But he felt off. Tired all the time. Uninterested in things he used to love. Gaining weight in strange places. He was sleeping fine, but still waking up exhausted. He even started wondering if he was depressed. Then, during a routine checkup, his doctor ran a simple test, something no one had ever suggested before. His testosterone levels were well below average. Daniel had been walking around with low testosterone for years without knowing it. Once he understood the cause, everything changed. He started small, more strength training, better protein intake, fewer late-night screens. His doctor gave him options from natural supplements to hormone therapy, and within weeks, the fog began to lift. He told me it felt like coming back to myself. Here's what most men don't realize. Testosterone starts to decline gradually after age 30. By the time you're 50 or 60, you could be running on half the levels you had in your 20s. And low testosterone doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just whispers a little less drive, a little more belly fat, a shorter fuse, a longer recovery time. So, what's the lesson here? If something feels off, don't write it off as just getting older. It might be your hormones asking for help. And the sooner you listen, the easier it is to restore balance. Talk to your doctor, get tested, and don't be ashamed. Taking care of your hormone health is taking care of your whole self. Now, before we move on to our final tip, there's one more habit simple, often overlooked, that could make a surprising difference in your nightly erections, your comfort, and even your long-term sexual health. It doesn't involve any pills, no workouts, no food changes, just a different way of going to sleep. You ready? Let's talk about why what you wear to bed or don't wear might be the key to protecting your manhood. Stay with me. 7. What you wear at night matters. The simple habit to protect nocturnal erections. Sometimes it's the smallest habits that make the biggest difference. And when it comes to protecting your manhood, here's one you might have never thought about. What you wear to bed. Sounds simple, right? But your choice of nighttime clothing, especially tight underwear, could be silently harming something essential, your nocturnal erections. Now, here's what most men don't know. Every healthy man has several spontaneous erections throughout the night, even when he's not dreaming about anything exciting. These erections aren't just random, they're nature's way of keeping your erectile tissue oxygenated and functional. Like a self-check system, your body runs every night to keep everything working properly. But here's the problem. When you wear tight briefs or compression-style underwear to bed, especially as you age, those erections press up against fabric that resists them. Over time, that constant restriction can cause microtraumas, which lead to, you guessed it, scar tissue, reduced blood flow, and long-term dysfunction. Let me tell you about Larry. Larry was 64, took care of himself, didn't smoke, ate clean, stayed active. But for years, he had a habit sleeping in snug boxer briefs. No one ever told him that could be an issue. When he started noticing slight discomfort and curvature during morning erections, he thought it was just age. But his doctor connected the dots. Years of compression had gradually done damage. Now Larry sleeps in loose-fitting boxers, or some nights nothing at all. And guess what? The discomfort faded. His erections came back stronger. He wished he had known sooner. So, what's the takeaway here? Let your body breathe. At night, give your genitals the space they need to do what they're meant to do. Heal, repair, reset. It's such a simple habit, but it can make a real difference. And as we wrap up, here's something I want to leave you with. Being a man doesn't come with a manual. Most of us learned about our bodies through whispers, bad advice, or silence. But now you know more. You've got tools. You've got choices. Let's quickly recap what we've covered. You learned why keeping your penis active protects it from dysfunction, how basic hygiene can prevent serious disease, why having sex before you're fully ready could cause lasting damage, the subtle ways porn rewires your brain and robs real connection, how your daily lifestyle from food to sleep speaks through your performance, why testosterone matters more than just libido, and finally, how a simple change in how you sleep at night might quietly save your manhood. None of these tips require magic. They require awareness, intention, care. So if you're watching this and thinking, where do I start? Start here. Start with one habit, one change, one act of care for yourself. Because your health, your confidence, your joy, they're not things you lost with age. They're things you can reclaim, and you deserve to. Thanks for being here. Take what you've learned and live it.